Kansas City Royals are only 6 games above 500. The sky's falling. Chicken Little's coming out. Everything's going crazy. We're going to talk about it right after this.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Welcome to the Panic Button edition of the One Royal Away podcast here on KC Sports Network. All of this is tongue-in-cheek. I promise we are joking. Jordan Foote, Josh Keiser, Joel Penfield here. Brought to you by our good pals at Emprise Bank, our partners in Possible. Eternally grateful to them for their support and for the pals for jumping on, and for everybody on YouTube tuning into the live show or after the fact, however you're listening. We'll start with Joel. How's it going, man?
Surviving just like the Royals are trying to right now. It is hot as balls outside, and I'm not enjoying it. I find this week when it is miserable outside, I just want to ask the people that find summer over winter, like why? Why? I just don't understand those that have that argument. Josh, where are you at on the summer or winter argument?
Yeah, I did a golf tournament yesterday, and it was hot, very hot. Golf really, really poorly. So right now, not super high on summer, but I am very excited to be here with you boys. I'm like a moth to a flame, or a mouse to a cheese, or a hawk to a squirrel. So I'm very excited. A hawk to a squirrel. So I'm very excited to be here. Jordan, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. You completely threw me off with that. Now I'm just thinking of the viral video.
You just don't like animal analogies?
Oh, it was the Ichiro quote. Remember was that about August in Kansas City?
Yeah, August in Kansas City is as hot as two worlds effing in a wool sock.
Yeah, and right now it is. And yesterday, Monday, was very, very bad. Now, people would hope that the hot temperatures would translate to some hot baseball being played by the Royals, and that has not been the case. 2-5 in the last 7. Dating back to, as we recorded last week, they lost 7-5 to the Oakland Athletics, and really just didn't put up a good performance in Oakland. Then a very uninspiring offensive performance in Texas, in the box score at least. And now 4-1 win over Miami in progress against the Marlins. That is going to kind of shape the trajectory of the end of this podcast, maybe, as we tally up that game. Any overarching thoughts, guys? I think that for me, the finale in Oakland, when Seth Lugo had a pretty darn good game and Freddie Fermin just absolutely willed the team to a win, it seemed. That was big. They really needed that against the bad team. Escaped with a 3-2 dub. For me, nothing really else from that. There were a couple bullpen performances. Like, I know Angel Zerpa got roughed up, and I think it was game 2 against Texas, and John Schreiber also had a rough one in game 1. Not trying to recap everything, but nothing too crazy jumps out to me outside of that.
I mean, it just stinks that the season's over. You know, they gave it a good fight. We're 80 games in. You know, oh wait, you mean the season's not over? It's like we're what, like halfway there? There's more baseball to play. Okay, cool. I'm not going to join in on the skies falling stuff. It's just I sent a lot of tweets over the last couple of days and immediately muted them because I'm like, you know what? It's just not. I
love doing that. Love
grenades.
That feature is prime. There isn't many great things about that stupid app, but that is one of them.
I pretty much saying the same thing. There was some bad bullpen performances, but we had some solid ones too as well. Especially that Marsh start that we got in against Oakland. The game was pretty much out of hand, but then the bullpen came and at least held them scoreless. All those earned runs were charged too. I like Marsh in that Tuesday night game, so that was nice to see. We got some decent performances that way, and I think the big positive of this week will be that game last night, because finally the scoreless inning streak was, the monkey was taken off the back. Vinny Pasquantino's home run hopefully is the spark for this offense to at least wake up and show up to games again. That would be splendid. I would love that. So hopefully that is the only takeaway. The only time we see this offense not show up, it is the lowest of lows as far as that goes. They are literally at the bottom of the Major League Baseball over the last week in runs scored. So hopefully that's the last time we see that ugly-headed, gross offense performance kind of rear its head towards us. But we'll see. This offense is volatile at best. So let's see.
Yeah, and they're getting some help coming back overall, right? Like they had Steven Cruz come up and down, they had Osinola come up and down, but Hunter Renfroe back, Michael Massey back, Michael Waka back. Massey only going to DH for a while he kind of gets the movement skills back and the movement kind of comfortability there. Nelson Velasquez, that one I don't want to spoil too much because we're going to talk about him later in the show. But down to Omaha, CJ Alexander called up. I thought that was really intriguing and something that the Royals, I think it was JJ Piccolo, went on. It might have been Cody and Gold, or it could have just been like a pregame presser or something about like he wasn't really, that wasn't in the plans all season. Like they weren't going to say, well, in June we're going to get CJ Alexander up. He kind of just forced their hand and played some good ball. The only other transaction, Jake Brent's got DFA'd, and I think that's just kind of the writing was on the wall there for him. Month of May, 8.1 innings. The ERA was over 17, and he had 19 walks. Now, he did get better thus far in June, 7.04 ERA and a 1-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. Still not what you would like to see from Jake Brent's, but I still think there might be a future somewhere in a system for him or the Royals system. So not anything too crazy, but I think like some necessary timelines. Massey coming back a little bit earlier than I expected because I think last week I said it was going to be early July. And that got accelerated. So good news, Josh, to kind of get some guys back and maybe shake things up a bit.
Yeah, I think that Waka activation is massive for the rotation for sure. Pitched well the other day on Saturday, I believe it was the game. Pitched well, kept him in the game. His offense just couldn't do it until Zerpa grand slam. But yeah, that was huge to get that activation. Hunter Renfroe was hot, so let's see if he can find that momentum once again. Massey raises the ceiling of this offense without lowering the floor, which is always a good thing. And I don't know. I like CJ Alexander. I think he's got some of the best power in this system. Some of the exit velos in Omaha were, like I said, some of the only ones that were major league caliber down there at the time. But it's just the swing and miss, man. The swing and miss and the chasing is just going to absolutely handicap him. So far, that's kind of what we've seen over the last 2 games of him so far. So hopefully we get to see him hit some dingers to be able to propel this offense, kind of spark it up and give it a little bit more life. But yeah, could still use some more momentum from that offense than what we're seeing so far.
I mean, this was an earned opportunity for CJ Alexander. David Lesky tweeted this, that before his call up since April 20th, he slashed 344, 388, 558. Like this was completely something where it was like the Royals, like, you know what, he's earned this. Like this is an opportunity that we should give this guy. And offense is scuffling right now. We're searching for stuff. Let's give this guy a chance to see if he can be a spark for us for 2 weeks. If that's all he gives us, but he helps get everything back on track, raise the floor of the bottom of the order, then we'll see. Yesterday was a little rough. He hit a ball pretty hard in his first at bat, about 388-foot fly out to dead center. So starting to see a little more. We'll see where it goes. I just want him to have a less high leverage at bat because I think 3 of his 5 at bats so far in the big leagues have been first and second, 2 outs. It's just like, buddy, can we give him a leadoff at bat and let him table set or something? Mm-hmm. But I'm interested to see what he does. I do think it's interesting that they're playing him at third base, moving Michael Garcia to second. Now that is because Michael Massey is going to DH only for a little while. And that's the only way he's going to play until his back is fully 100%. They don't want to rush that. And I completely understand. You still have Nick Lofton that can play second, and we'll see where it goes. But overall, I like that they shook things up. I hope Nelly. I don't think Nelly's going to be down for too long. He's he's probably going to come back up. And I'd probably say like a month if he's really hitting down there. If he figures it out, then it changes the complexion of the lineup because of his power he provides in the middle to the bottom of the order.
Yeah. Well, and very, very briefly, you hit on the CJ Alexander, like they forced his hand again. He was like, he's playing too well. There were opportunities for, Nelson Velasquez to keep holding him off, or even a Nick Prado down in the minor leagues to say, okay, well, I'm going to be that guy. It doesn't have to be CJ Alexander. It's me. Drew Waters to do it. He didn't run away with his opportunity. So the Royals have had even like a smaller example, and not that he had a rotation spot set, but Daniel Lynch to force them to keep him up there and keep pitching well because they need the bullpen help. The Royals are giving guys chances, and it's not the big league tryout basis that JJ Piccolo mentioned they can't afford. If CJ Alexander isn't producing, they're quickly going to move him back down and say, okay, this isn't working, or at least mitigate, limit his at bats, stuff like that. But they're also, again, the theme of getting help. So Adam Frazier's on the 10-day IL with a right thumb sprain. It's probably just going to be like a 10-day thing, 10 to 12. Maybe he's back. He wasn't hitting too well since the last time we talked, and even the time before that, kind of slumping a little bit. So maybe a much needed rest for him. Dan Altavilla, 15-day IL, retroactive to June 20th. I want to say he also wasn't pitching too well in a small sample size, but really the big injury development, Chris Bubich. Granted, the final 10 days on the rehab stint, transitioning to a bullpen role. I think this could help, guys. 17 innings pitched in June, 2.6 ERA, 7 walks to 16 strikeouts. I think he's going to pitch pretty darn well, and earn that call up back, get back with acclimated with the big league team. And like, it's kind of a interesting catch-22, I think, because they need the bullpen help, but they're also not going to be like, hey, Chris Bubich, you're pitching, 4 times this week, and you're going to just go out there and completely save us. I think there is a world where they can still ease him back into action. They're going to get the All-Star break. He's going to get some time to not even stretch back out because he's not going to be starting. I think this is a good role for him, and really, Josh, like a wise decision for the Royals to bring him out of the bullpen instead of saying, hey, we're going to put you in a rotation. They don't need to because they have 5 guys that have been pitching well.
And speaking of 5 guys, it'll be like their 4th or 5th lefty that comes through that bullpen potentially. But I'm not complaining because right now a lot of those lefties and the Will Smith, Angel Zerpa, and Sam Long have been okay. And somehow Will Smith has been the best of that trio. That's a world that we currently live in. So that's fun. But I'm curious to see what they do with Bubich because, like you said, I agree. They're not going to be pitching him 3 to 4 times a week. I think it's going to be strategic. He's going to be a mop-up duty type of thing, and that starting rotation has 4 righties in it. So as long as you're not piggybacking Cole Reagans with Chris Bubich, you're probably going to be shaking things up no matter who is starting that game, which is exciting to see. So I'm very anxious to see Chris Bubich up at the MLBs again and see how Q chooses to use him.
Yeah, the utilization is what fascinates me with because he's going to be a factor down the stretch in some capacity, and with Zerpa kind of coming back to earth a hair. I mean, I still think he's fine. Like, I'm not gonna. This is not a referendum on him. I don't know how Will Smith is better than he was early in the year. We've talked about that, but I don't think you can still put him in a high leverage spot. And Sam Long is okay. So I don't know. I would imagine they're just going to ease him back in, and maybe he just, slowly moves into that, a higher leverage or a 6th, 7th inning type. And I'm curious what that does to his velocity.
I was going to bring that up too.
Stuff. I do not think, and this honestly, my opinion of Chris Bubich is this is best for him long term in his career, and not just a short term thing. I think his stuff is much better in shorter spurts. It's more 93, 94, 95 than 90 to 91, like he has predominantly been in his career. He's throwing a cutter now, which I think is a very interesting thing for him with the curveball and change all from the left side and kind of a funky delivery. Could be like you pair him with like a Lugo or a Waka, or like on the other side of them, then it's a completely different look. And he could be very interesting. So I'm curious what he's going to end up looking like.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm going to talk a little bit of draft as my weekly takeaway. That's not really a weekly takeaway, but just look ahead. You guys kind of had similar, but not too similar stuff of like talking people off the ledge. And I want to bounce back to Joel first here. You kind of mentioned earlier that like the sky's not actually falling. They're okay. They're still above 500. There's still one good series against Cleveland away from being right back in the division race, like squarely. That's kind of the overarching theme, I think, of this next week for them. So why is the sky not falling? And At the same time, though, Josh, why is it kind of an unacceptable type of week?
So that's where I went with mine is like this is not the end of the world. Like teams go through stretches like this throughout a season at any level of competition. And even the really good teams this happens. It just happened to be for the Royals against or right after they played their toughest stretch of baseball when they took some losses. They kind of took it on the chin and it was like, okay, the conventional wisdom was this is their opportunity to bounce back. And I think there was, and we talked a little bit about it right before we hit record, that maybe there was a little bit of a hangover from the level of competition, the gauntlet they played. They didn't have an off day for a significant period of time in that stretch. And then they play Oakland, and it was what it was. And then you go to Texas. That said, it's unacceptable if you believe the Royals are a good team and are a team that it can be in contention. You can't drop 2 of 3 to Oakland, and you can't go to Texas and look punchless. Like, Texas is not a bad team. They are underachieving, but they're not bad. You can't go 25 consecutive innings without scoring. You can't get shut out in back-to-back games in Texas. And they went up against John Gray and then Scherzer in his first outing back. But you can't get shut out in those games. You can't look lifeless. And that is where I'm like, that is a problem. But I also think they're going to right the ship and figure it out. Like they've done that all year. It's June 25th. The series the Royals just came off of was the first time they got swept all season. Like it is like as difficult as baseball is, it is very difficult to go this far into a year and this be the first time that we're like, man, they looked bad for an entire series. We've had moments where they're like, yeah, they didn't play that great, but they still, were able to scrap one across. So this is not the end of the world. I believe they're going to bounce back. They've proven to us all year that they have found ways to get themselves up off the mat and scrap wins together and find, a way to get a winning streak going. You have your longest homestand of the season right now. You play very well at home, and you get a really nice bounce back series against Miami, who is terrible. So we'll see where they fall. And by the time we talk next week, if they're able to, hopefully best case scenario, sweep this series against Miami and split with Cleveland, then we're having a much different conversation than we are right now.
Yeah, I kind of looked at some of the numbers today, and I wanted to go back to what this offense really started looking really tough and really hard to score runs. And I think it started with that series against New York on June 10th. Since then, they're 4-10 and have the worst runs per game in Major League Baseball at 2.6. I wanted to see really what the offense was doing that they hadn't been doing all year. And there's basically one thing, because everything else has been pretty much the same. The WRC plus and the OPS is obviously different, but they're actually chasing less. They're making more contact or more zone contact over this last week, I should say. Caveat there. Chasing less this last week. They're making more contact in the zone. Exit velocities, launch angles, barrel percent, line drive. That's all pretty much the same. They're not doing anything different really in that realm. The difference comes, and I think Royals Review talked about this. Dave Lesky talked about this on X, that runners in the scoring position was one of the things they were doing so well all season long. Coming into today's game, they are still third in OPS with runners in scoring position at 831. They are fourth in RBIs. They're fifth in K rate. They're fifth in BABIP. And that was not happening over this last stretch, this last week. They were 30th in OPS, 30th in RBIs, 26th in K rate, 30th with a 154 BABIP. So that is the big difference. And that is not something that you can count on any given moment. It's almost random as far as those situations go. I'm sure the players can handle those situations mentally a little bit better, but they're going to get pitched differently. They're going to have to prepare differently. They're going to have to put balls in play and a little bit more strategically than normal situations. So it is kind of a crapshoot when you get those opportunities. When you get them, you have to do something with them way more than they did. So I'm not worried about this offense in general. I still think they got plenty of stuff to go off of, plenty of momentum. They're doing a lot of things right. So we'll just have to see how this goes. I still have faith. I'm not selling a bunch of people just to try to get like the Luis Robert of the world to come and help this offense. But that's basically it. They got to get runners home from scoring position. End of stat.
Big agree. I'm going to hit on a few guys that I think could help them long term with the number 6 pick in the 2024 MLB draft. But first, we're going to take a quick break.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
Jordan Foote, Joel Penfield, Josh Keiser here, One World Away podcast. Huge thanks to everyone who is tuning in on YouTube. Feel free to drop a comment if you have a question, comment, concern, want to call one of us ugly, whatever you want to do. We will take it in stride here. So the draft is coming up, and we haven't talked too much about it. My stuff is somewhat subject to change, I think, but finally feel comfortable enough to share some takes and some opinions. So I'm operating under the assumption that Travis Pisano from Oregon State is not going to be available when the Royals pick at 6, that Charlie Condon from Georgia is not going to be available at 6, that Chase Burns is not going to be available at 6, and then Big Jack Caglione is not going to be available. I think the caveat to that is 100% sure on 3 of those. I think Burns, I'm 90% sure. I think there's a world where he is available, and if that is true, they should sprint up there and make that pick. So if those 4 are gone, I think Hagen Smith is my number 1 guy. Just 17 strikeouts per 9 this year at Arkansas. High 90s fastball, elite slider, good frame. I think the walks came down this year. Big fan of that. Nick Kurtz is my number 2 guy. I have a top 5 and then a bonus pick. I just like Kurtz's power. I think the hit tool is legitimate. Really good discipline. Love his eye. Opened the year with a shoulder injury, kind of bounced back and got going after that. JJ Weatherholt from West Virginia has got a lot of buzz to the Royals that I've seen. One of the best hitters, I think, in the draft class, just a really damn good athlete. So very big fan of him. This is where I kind of flip-flop, and I don't know whether I want 4 or 5 or 5 or 4 here. Braden Montgomery from A&M. I love the power. I love the player. I'm just not completely sold on the hit tool long term. And I also think he's definitely a corner outfielder because the defense doesn't completely wow me outside of the arm. The prep kind of class, I think Connor Griffin is the cream of the crop. I love the speed. I think the power potential is legitimate for 20, 25 home runs. 6'4", 205. He's a grown man at 18. Really quick bat. Still developing the pitch recognition, the bat to ball, the consistency. He's 18 years old. So I'm not too crazy about that being a bad thing. 87 stolen bases and 88 attempts on the docket. So really talented there. And then Trey Savage from East Carolina is the bonus option, I think. He really stepped up this year. The prior versions of his fastball were pretty crappy from what I was reading and seeing. The slider and splitter combo, very lethal. I think he could be one of those guys, and the Royals can kind of attack the draft in terms of, you can't go based on what you currently need, but you have to also balance the long-term. You always need more pitching. You could always move a guy like Connor Griffin to, I think, center field and shortstop. That's kind of the top 2 positions he's been pegged as so far. So those are my top guys right now. We'll probably do a more draft-intensive episode down the road, but just some initial thoughts on that. And yeah, he is a LSU commit, so that signability portion kind of factors in, and then maybe you go and ball out. T-Bone, do you think they add any arms before the deadline? I'm going to let Josh handle that one.
They should. I think that there are arms to be had. I think bullpen especially. I don't think the starting rotation needs much help, but I've been pretty high on Kirby Yates as a potential. I like Carlos Estevez a little bit. I've always been a Hunter Harvey. Tanner Harvey. I don't know what the hell that name is, but it's in my brain. Hunter Harvey from Washington would also be fun, but that's all going to come with the costs that I'm just not 100% sure I'm willing to pay. So if they do make a move for a good righty, I think the righty is probably vital in that acquisition as well. I would love me a high leverage righty to complement the rest of this bullpen. So we'll see. But if they're acquiring, does Walter Pennington count? Because I need Walter Pennington somewhere in this bullpen.
Joel?
A couple other names that I think would be interesting are, and this goes against my principle, which it's one of my few baseball principles, but it's never trade with Tampa. But the idea of some combination of Pete Fairbanks, Jason Adam, and Garrett Cleavinger are very intriguing, all controlled beyond this year, all really good stuff. But the counterpoint is you will lose the trade with Tampa. Like, it just will happen. So tread lightly in that regard. Can we circle back the conversation to Jordan's draft talk really quick? We don't have to spend time.
Yeah.
I have a couple thoughts. The Hagen Smith versus Chase Burns. What do you guys like? If you said pick a name between the two, who do you like?
I'm Team Burns all the way, but like, just realistically, I think Smith is a lot more likely to be available, if that makes sense.
I like the power fastball a little bit more. So give me Chase Burns a little bit. Yep.
So the fastball that Chase Burns throws is like, if you built a fastball in a lab, it's that guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you want, like, and this is not why the Royals should take this guy, but I do think Burns would take longer, like, to develop. Totally, like, there is some pitch up there. It's definitely more stuff over pitchability, even at the college level right now. So that's like, I don't know about that, because I'd still have some questions about the Royals on the dev side. However, this is I've talked to a few people about this regarding Hagen Smith, that if you wanted, like, if say the Royals are in it at the end of August and you wanted to Brandon Finnegan this guy, you probably could.
Yep.
That is not why the Royals should take Hagen Smith. But if he's there and they take him, he could help you on a playoff.
No, dude, I did radio earlier on Tuesday with Shane Dennis at ESPN Wichita, and he literally mentioned that same thing. He was like, I think there's a world where he could factor into like a deep playoff run out of the bullpen. I'm like, he's gotten better every year, and he has multiple years of experience. Like, he is a guy that shouldn't take too long. Like, that projectability.
He's been a weekend starter for 3 years for Arkansas. Like, that's no joke. I like Weatherall, but the soft tissue injuries really concern me.
Yeah.
I will say that if you want to go position player, if Braden Montgomery's injury isn't as serious as it's made out to be, I'd run to the podium.
Insane.
I'd run to the podium with that pick. It's between that is the one concern. Like, I don't know. They've been kind of hush about like what it actually is. I just know it was like an ankle, I think. But if like the long term is like, no, he's going to be fine, then I would probably take that pick. I like Connor Griffin a lot.
Love Connor Griffin.
Like,
risky, but love Connor
Griffin. The Royals are in a really, really interesting spot where they're either going to get the 5th or 6th college guy or the top prep guy. Because I don't think a prep guy is going to the top 5. I think it is going to be in some form or fashion Bazana, Condon, Kaggs, Kurtz, Burns is my guess. Or Weatherall. Like, it's going to be 5 college guys. So then, okay, do we want the 6th college guy, or do we want to take Connor Griffin and we can give him more money? You know, we can give him more money than anyone down the board and get him away from LSU. You know, it'll be interesting to see how they play it. I have more takes on what they should do and why they should do it down the line, but just some initial thoughts.
Love that.
It's going to take a lot to get me off a switch hitter outfielder that has big power. So Braden Montgomery is my dude probably at this point. Injury be damned. We don't need him right now. So I'm not too concerned about that, but it's going to be hard to get me off the Braden Montgomery train, I think.
T-Bone, to answer your question, just my very, very 10-second quick thought. I think they get either the corner outfield / infield person they're looking for, or they get a bullpen arm. I don't think they get both. I would lean they just add to the bullpen. There might be a guy out there, but I think they do make a move. It might not be a splash, but I do think they're going to try, and at this point, that's all you can ask them to do. So they are going to get maybe some help from Nelson Velasquez down the stretch if things pan out. Josh, you want to talk about kind of what you've seen from him and what you think the next step is to help him get back on track?
I don't know what the best thing to get him on track is.
Fix him, damn it. Fix him, Josh.
I was more looking like why he was the guy that was sent down after we've seen plenty of struggles from like Michael Garcia and MJ Melendez. I wanted to see what was different about Nelson Velasquez to get him sent down. So on the year, he was slashing 200, 274, and 366. Zone contact was fine. He chased quite a bit. His exit velocities were not good, despite having, seeing that power there. His barrel rate was just fine. Really bad versus fastballs, really bad versus sliders. He pretty much encapsulated everything this Royals offense kind of goes with. It's fine. There are problems. Fastballs are a problem. Sliders are a problem. But okay, we can work with that. But since May 1st, he was 182, 255, and 372. And then since June 1st, 122, 240, 171. So that slash line is piss poor, is the technical term I believe they use for it. But he was walking more, he was striking out less, he was chasing less, he was making more zone in the contact over that time, barreling way lower, his launch angle was way lower, his exit velocity was lower. So that's kind of where it was. He was hitting less line drives, less foul balls, more ground balls. It seemed like he was forcing things a little bit more than what we'd like to see from Nelson Velasquez. So I think that is a little bit to do with it. You kind of see MJ Melendez kind of turn a little bit of a corner here over the last week or two. That's good to see. Michael Garcia is still scuffling at the plate, including tonight. He's still having trouble. Did walk and score. That's the only run so far in that game. But those two are both contributing on defense. And if your only job is to be the designated hitter, there are options that could come take your at-bats, namely Freddie Fermin. You could probably give Blanco and Garrett Hampson some more reps than that. There are guys on this current roster and below Nelson Velasquez that could probably do better with that designated hitter position, and that's not even including any trade candidates they could eventually go look for. So Nelson Velasquez was not earning his spot. DHs are easy to replace. He was not contributing, so he's the one who got sent down over guys like MJ and Michael Garcia at this point. But I still think, especially with that move, putting Michael at second base last night, I think that's a little bit of a notice to Michael Garcia. Like, we have options we could potentially go with. We have CJ Alexander trying to win a spot on this roster right now. Go show us that you can protect your spot on this roster by performing. Same with MJ. We still got shots fired at him. These are warning shots. These spots are no longer given. They are earned. And I think that's the message being sent. So Nelson Velasquez is just the first. Well, we might see some more, but hopefully we don't have to see any more of those guys go down and try to learn.
Joel, bullpen?
So obviously the bullpen's been a massive topic over the last month or so as they've seen some ebb and flow and some regression to the mean for certain guys. One guy that low-key's been pretty solid all year has been Chris Stratton. Now, I know you may look at the season-long numbers and the ERA, it's 4.5, it's a 1.2 whip, and you're like, I don't know. If you go and look at the game logs, he's had, I think, 3 outings this year that I would call bad. He had one against the Mets where he walked 4. Now, if I remember that correctly, he really had like 2 strikeouts in that inning that were called walks, but whatever. Gave up 2 runs, gave up the lead late in that one. And then at the very end of April against the Tigers, where he gave up 5 runs and it felt like about 3 pitches. And that was that he got blown up. And then against the Twins at the end of May, where he gave up 4, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, and like it didn't look pretty. Outside of that, he's actually been pretty solid. Like he'll go out, you kind of know what you're going to get with him. I think, and it's not awesome. Like, I'm not saying the guy is like electric elite stuff,
but there's value in that.
You kind of know, yes, the knowing what I'm going to get from a guy matters. Like, at this point, John Schreiber, Anhel Zerpa, James MacArthur, I have no idea what I'm going to get. It's like Schrodinger's cat throwing it out there on the mound. Like, I don't know what I'm going to get. But for Chris Stratton, like, he's going to give you an inning, maybe 2 if you really need it. He may walk a guy. He's probably going to strike out 1 or 2 and get ground balls and limit hard contact. Like, that's pretty much what you're going to get across the board. Since June 1st, he's thrown, let me get the full list here. Since June 1st, It's a .93 ERA in 9 2/3 innings, 8 strikeouts, 4 walks, FIPS 2.7. So, it's a little more than what the ERA is, but batting average against is .065. It's a 300 OPS over the last 9 2/3, which for a reliever is a pretty decent sample. Like we're not talking about a starter here. And when you really look at, and this is why using reliever ERA, you have to put it in context, because he had those 3 bad outings that totally inflated his ERA, and it's almost impossible to come back from that. If he goes scoreless over his next 10 innings, maybe he gets it below 4. Like that's how much it matters for these guys that throw 50, 60 innings a year. But for a guy that came in and was asked to be a stabilizer in the bullpen, a guy that's been there, done that in high leverage playoff outings, he's done that for 80% of this season. So if you want to have questions about other guys in the bullpen, totally worth having. I think if you want to talk about like circle of trust type guys, I think Chris Stratton deserves way more to be in that type of conversation than not, beyond just looking at just the ERA. And the Savant stuff, like the biggest thing with him, he doesn't give up hard contact. Which fine. Like the fastball is not that great. He spins the crap out of his curveball. His slider's good. He's throwing a sinker now. But the expected batting average is in the 84th percentile, 99th percentile in average exit velocity. It's less than 84 miles an hour. He's not getting barreled up. He's actually walking guys less now than he was at the beginning of the year. So there is a lot to like with what he's doing. I don't know how much longer he can keep it up, but hey, I think we're in really good shape here.
You mentioned something that I went on 18 and talked to Jason Anderson in the Zone last week, and they had me rank the top 5, the guys that you trust the most. And I'm not going to make you rank them, but where is Stratton in your list of guys you trust right now?
I think he's 3rd.
That's where I had him last week.
Yep. I think like 2nd or 3rd. I think you could probably coin flip him and Zerpa.
Remember when I had Matt Sauer like number 2.5 or whatever?
I do remember that. You were like, we need to save.
I think I ruined. Out. He was balling, and then I said that, and then the wheels literally.
I still think
fell off.
Yeah. Now I will say, like, just if one game, if you want to look at it, yesterday was the best John Schreiber and James McArthur have looked in weeks. Like it was the most confident they were throwing their fastballs, and their stuff was breaking off. And so it's like, okay, if that's a get right game for them and they start to move back into the circle of trust type, then you have a solid 3 in Stratton, Schreiber, McArthur, and then Zerpa, fill him in where you want. And I still think Zerpa's fine. Like he has come back to earth from, I think, an unsustainable ground ball rate. And now we'll see where it goes. But all this to say that Chris Stratton deserves a lot of credit for being a fairly stable force in a very unstable bullpen.
A player who I think is still in the circle of trust for everybody on this podcast and for the Kansas City Royals and for all of Kansas City. You would be hard-pressed to find someone who doesn't like this player or isn't rooting for this player to do well or isn't a fan of his game. But with that said, has not lived up to the expectations this year is Vinny Pasquantino. 99 WRC plus in 76 games, 99 WRC plus in the month of June, 1 strikeout to walk ratio, only barreled the ball 2 times all month. What he's doing well are the things Vinny Pasquantino usually does well. He's walking 10% of the time. He's not striking out a lot. Elite whiff rate, elite K rate, very good walk rate. The chase rates have been good. He compares really favorably to that 2022 season when he burst onto the scene and flashed a lot of his potential. The barrel rate's almost identical. The exit velo is almost identical. The expected slugging is literally 0.05 points difference, almost identical. Hard hit rate, almost identical again. The problems that I've noticed from him, he's not doing damage against fastballs. So 2022, hit 317, slugged 504 against them. 2023, before he got hurt, 300 batting average, 444. Slugging percentage this season, 241 and 399. So that is a very easy point to, hey, he's done this very well in the past. This year he isn't doing it. He also just isn't capitalizing on balls in play. The BABIP is 239, so there's some bad luck there. The pop-up rate is higher than it's ever been. So just when he's missing, he's missing. The line drive rate's a career low, and he's just getting absolutely shelled on the shadow of the plate. Savant does like the run value there. He's at -11 on those pitches after being -6 and -5 the past 2 years. So defensively, I don't have any bones to pick. I think the caveat, you could say the arm strength percentile is like 3, and you're like, really, who gives a shit about that? Because
he's a first baseman.
Yeah, outs above average, he's been awesome. Fielding run value, he's been good. The base running is what it is. So who is Vinny Pasquantino? I think he has made improvements to become a very solid defender. The base running, just you're going to take that. It comes with the territory with him. The expected stats are better than what the actual numbers are on offense. If there's any player to believe in with that being the case, it's him. But I think he just might need to be a little bit more aggressive too and force his way out of this. So if he sees more fastballs, keep attacking him. The first pitch swing rate is a career low, so maybe get a little bit more aggressive early in the count. I think I still believe in Vinny Pasquantino to be like an all-star level hitter. I think in the second half of this season, if I had chips to put in on someone, I'd be putting them in on him. And still, we're halfway through a season, so the results have to come at some point. But MJ Melendez last year got on a tear in the second half of the year. I think we're going to see something pretty similar from Vinny Pasquantino in 2024.
What, Vinny's got 8 home runs, 9 home runs?
I think 8 home runs.
He just
and like the ISO's like 180 or something like that, 179. Maybe.
He's like in the top 5 in the league in doubles.
Yeah.
Does Vinny get to 20 home runs? What do you guys think?
I think so.
I think he's going to get damn close, like 19.
Yeah, he kind of hits them in bunches, so he could get hot in July, and that it'll skew the pace stats.
And he had an RBI single earlier in this game as we recorded. Yeah. I think he's going to get hot. Like July and August are going to be really, really kind to him, I think.
Yeah, I like the optimism.
Yeah, I mean, I'll always believe in him just purely because he's always going to outplay his expected. Like, when the expected stats come for him and he gets on a heater, like he's one of the best hitters in baseball. It's just a matter of like he is so contact oriented that he relies so heavily on the BABIP to work in his favor. And when it's
239 is just fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, like it's not. Yeah, like if you told me Vinny Pasquantino is gonna be a 235 hitter, I'd be like, you are crazy.
Yeah, he's gonna improve. The question is just how much is he going to improve? But it's gonna happen.
Can he be like a 260, 265 hitter with an OPS over 800? I fully believe that he can. If the batted ball luck the baseball gods work in his favor and he starts those little some of those bloopers that he hits to the left side actually fall. And those hard hit fly balls that he does hit don't just land at the warning track, because he's had a lot of those recently too.
Yep. All of the things that I've said about Vinny Pasquantino are the things that I kind of tell myself about my player in MLB The Show. I'm like, man, you're right there. Like you're doing the things right. You just need a little bit of luck to bounce your way. The Royals could use it to bounce their way, finishing up the Miami series on Wednesday, probably as some of you are listening to this podcast. Then a big 4-game set against Cleveland, and then they'll open against Tampa Bay, I believe, as we're recording the second, or I guess the next podcast. So betting wise, I have a bone to pick with mine, but luckily I'm last in the order, so we don't have to get there yet. Joel, what do you have for Michael Wacha against the Guardians?
So I have Michael Wacha going under 5.5 strikeouts against Cleveland. I still think he could do well, but they, much like the Royals, are very contact oriented and annoying as shit. So I think he probably can go 6 innings, but he gets 5 or less strikeouts. He's not going K per inning.
Josh?
I'm going to say we have a bounce back week here, boys. We got, 7 games? 7 games against the Marlins and the Guardians.
Get it again.
That doesn't count. That doesn't count. And the schedule makers really set me up by playing the Guardians at all. So it's really not my fault. It's really on everybody else. But yeah, 4 against Cleveland and then 1 against Tampa Bay. I think the Royals win 5 or more games out of this stretch. They're 26-14 at home with a 650 win percentage. Miami and Cleveland combined for a 529 record, so I think that's in their favor. I think we get to see their postseason 3 in Lugo, Reagans, and Waka in that Cleveland series, and I think that's exactly how you want to see lined up in that series. And I think this team overall has done a good job responding to obstacles like this. So I'm taking the over 4.5 wins in this week. Next time we see us, starting with tonight, which Carlos Hernandez is in for the 7th, protecting a 1-0 lead. So we're already a little bit puckered on that, boys.
And you're coming off a dub. Cole Reagans, that line you set 17.5. He had 18 Ks. Like that was iconic. That was almost worth 2. Almost. Yeah.
Were you dying with that 2-out strikeout of Jazz?
Yes.
At the end of the 6th last night.
I saw the last strikeout and I saw 11. I was like, that's probably pretty close. I think he had 7 or 8 the other day. So at that point, I thought I wasn't sweating it. Yeah. I agree. I was shooting the moon on that one, but came true. It's almost like it's even more satisfying of a win whenever you set a line like that and still get it. So it's almost like hitting an alternate line.
I'm upset about my bet because I put more research into that effing bet than I had to one all year. It was my stone cold lock. It was going to hit. Now I am willing to chalk it up as a loss. However, my case is that I literally could not have seen it coming that Dane Dunning was going to get moved to the bullpen and not have the opportunity to get the win, let alone pitch at all. So I didn't mark it down as a win or a loss. I obviously can't do a win. I'm pleading for forgiveness and amnesty here because we have to make a decision. Do I drop myself to 4-7 or do I just get to roll over? Technically, it is a loss because he didn't do what I said he was going to do, but also, circumstances. I should have had the foresight to predict that was going to happen.
It's all resting on the return from injuries, right? And I don't know if that was clear at the time, so I would be fine with you not getting a loss on this front. But also, we're in the contest, so
all members of the podcast have spoken. Josh's vote counts. We're giving you nothing, but here,
I'm okay. Like I will be nice, and I'm okay with the mulligan.
What a guy! This guy needs a mulligan
this week.
For the first time all season. We have a somewhat negative Bobby Witt Jr. tidbit. Hitting 148 since last recording, 35 WRC plus, 3 extra base hits. I think he hits more than half a home run, so he's going to have a home run and over 3.5 ribbies. So he's going to have 4 RBIs and a home run prior to the next recording. And he hasn't had either tonight. I wasn't going to count that either way. So between Wednesday and Tuesday, Bobby Witt Jr. is going to get back on track. So that's my bet.
Yeah, I like it. I like the 2 bets. I think that's fair.
Yes, gotta love it. I figured, the over half a home run, I was like, nah, let's spice it up a little bit, especially because I was banking on getting forgiveness for this one, and I did. So it all worked out. Let's talk AAA Omaha and below. Jesus Tinoco got assigned to the Storm Chasers. Outside of that, they're just continuing. They're a machine right now. Every week we've talked about how Omaha has a crazy run differential, how they're like doubling up their wins and losses. It's been insane. I don't have a positive point to share from Omaha, so I'm hoping that Josh can save me here and get it going on a good note.
We'll see. Devin Mann had a really good week last week. A lot of people are interested in knowing what he's doing, seeing where he fits, if at all, in this potential MLB impact at all. But went 6 for 15 last week with a double and a home run. No walks and 2 strikeouts on the year. He's slashing 309, 420, and 489. His average exit velocity is only 85.4. Barrel rate's not very high. The metrics in Omaha kind of say he's kind of like a Mickey Moniak type of hitter, which is very inconsistent at the MLB level. It's not necessarily what you just want to see, and his defensive positioning impact is not super great either. So long term and in the grand scheme of things, I don't know if Devin Mann is going to fit into future plans, but he did have a good week in Omaha last week, so good job, and he's having a good year in Omaha as well. So keep it up and get those exit velocities up, and we'll see where we are.
I I dug deep for this week's minor league segment. Like I tried to find guys that we haven't been talking about at all that some people might not even know about. Kevin Padlo is a Royal, or well, technically, I guess. He on the season in Double A, he played 7 games with Kansas City. It was a pretty recent move, like earlier this month. He hit 143 with a 27 WRC plus. In AAA, he didn't record a hit in 3 games coming up to Tuesday's play. So if you're wondering how Kevin Padlo was doing, not very well. That signing jumped out to me because I have a buddy who's like a very weird player, like be infatuated with. But he was like, "Oh man, Kevin Padlo's a role now," and I'm like, he hasn't ever done anything, and that it's kind of continuing. So Joel, what do you think?
You want to talk about Nick Prado? He had a really good week. Slash 348, 375, 783 slug, 3 homers, 8 RBIs. That is a it's just good to see for him. I still don't know where he fits in the future plans, but it is good to see him have a good week. I think it's not that the book is closed on him at the big league level, but he's not an everyday guy. And I think we've kind of figured that out, given that how quick he went back down to Omaha after a quick stint. Really, he only got in, I think, for a pitching appearance, and I think that was it. So we'll see what he does. Strikeout. He did. Hey, he did get a strikeout. That's more than some guys in the bullpen can say right now.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's funny. Double A Northwest Arkansas hovering around 500 still. Josh Lester and Rodolfo Duran up from AAA to Double A. I'm going to go Rivertown, and I think we might have talked about him one time this year, and I bet it was Joshua. He has a 112 WRC plus in 32 games, 207 batting average, 417 OBP. He has a 21.7% walk rate, no home runs, no stolen bases. The month of May, this is where it gets crazy. The month of May, he walked 31% of the time and had a 473 OBP and a 200 batting average. Month of June, WRC plus down to 81, 16.1% walk rate and strikeout rate, but hitting 240, just the 635 OPS. So he's not giving them any power. He's not giving them anything on the base pads. But damn it, if he's drawing walks, then he's doing it better than almost anybody in minor league baseball.
Yeah, that's an interesting line. Not many lines like that. I went with a guy that I know that I've talked about multiple times already this year, and that's Luinder Avila. I had a start last week, 7 innings pitched, no earned, 3 hits, 1 walk, 1 hit batter, and then 9 Ks jumped out to me. He is soft contact guy. He is ground ball rate guy. He is not super strikeout guy. His K percentage on the year is just 23.6, and yet he still struck out 9 over 7. So very, very good to see Luinder Avila kind of doing things down there in Double A Northwest Arkansas. He's age appropriate, maybe if not a little bit younger than most of his level. So seeing him do his thing down there is a good thing. But yeah, if his command gets figured out, could be interesting at some point. So shout out to Luinder Avila for sure.
A guy that he was on the 40-man roster a couple years ago. He was kind of the surprise young guy that got put on the 40. Was Diego Hernandez, a guy with a ton of promise. Go through low A or up to he went 3 levels in 2022 or 2 levels in 2022. Looked like a guy that maybe could be a center fielder type for the Royals moving forward. It's definitely taken a turn for the worst. 71 WRC plus in the second go round in Double A this year. And I was willing to kind of give him a mulligan. He got hurt in spring training last year, really wrecked his season. Was hoping maybe he could come back. Slashing 246, 281, 326. That really hasn't developed any sort of power. He's striking out a lot. He's not walking a lot. So I don't think he's necessarily a non-prospect at this point. He's still only 23 years old, but it sucks to see his trajectory. He was heading in the right direction, and now it's the complete opposite at this point.
High A Quad Cities, 30 and 35, 4th in the Midwest League West. Connor Fenlong option isn't the right word, elevated from Columbia to Quad Cities. Oscar Rayo is my pick on the year, 39.2 innings pitched, 1.82 ERA, The month of June, 14 and 2/3 innings, 5 hits, no earned runs with 10 strikeouts, 4 or more innings in 3 of those 4 appearances. So a guy that I know for a fact we haven't talked about this year, and people might just want to keep an eye on because he's not an old prospect by any means, but definitely carving him up down in Quad Cities. Joel, what do you have?
Oh, I'm still looking at Quad Cities. I failed us, and I did
Josh,
not
what do you have?
segment.
I've got Carter Jensen per usual.
I'm shocked,
coming up.
man.
I didn't
Tough-
see it on the
tough
doc.
week,
I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah, a tough week though. I didn't want to jump over this because I'm a writer for Carter Jensen, so I'm not just going to ignore the bad weeks. Just 3 for 18 on the week, but still hit a dong. 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, only slashed 167, 253, 383. So Carter Jensen has had better weeks, but the one I was kind of excited about was Carson Roccaforte. We came in this year kind of pretty high on Carson Roccaforte. And he's going to the tune of 203, 282, and 339. There's a lot of twos in that slash line, which is not great. But last week he did go 5 for 12, 1 homer, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, and a stolen base. In June, he's heating up a little bit, carrying a plus 800 or over 800 OPS on the month with a almost 19% walk rate and a 26% K rate. So things are kind of looking a little bit better for Carson Roccaforte. But I still like to see more to justify how high in my rankings he was coming into the year.
So I talked about him a couple weeks ago, and he had another really solid week. Was Jack Pineda? He had a 308, 345, 500 slash, home run, couple doubles, 4 RBIs in 6 games. On the season now, the WRC plus is up to 108. So he's really started to turn a corner after a tough start to the year. The second go around at high A, I'd be curious if he could be in line for a promotion to double A and just see, could be a sink or swim type promotion for him.
Columbia, 35 and 32nd in the Carolina League South. That run differential continuing to stay above 0. Mason Miller, not the Mason Miller that you were thinking of, I promise, sent from ACL to Columbia, and Jonathan Bernal activated from the 60-day IL. I've got another pitcher, Logan Martin, 52 innings, ERA right above 3. In the month of June, 17 innings, 10 hits, 8 walks, so the whip right above 1, but 16 strikeouts. He's been split between relief and starting, so he's on my radar. And Josh, who you got on yours?
Shocking. We're going to talk about Blake Mitchell again for the 17th time because he is the guy that everybody wants to talk about when we talk about the farm. Just 2 for 12 last week, so not great there, but hit a home run, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts, and 2 stolen base for that thick-thighed man down there in Columbia behind the plate. But on the year, slashing 248, 394, and 442, 18% walk rate, 30.5% K rate. Preston Farr's got to he keeps a really good eye on the farm system at Royals Miners on Twitter if you want to get him. But he threw this out just now over his last 30 games, tonight included. Blake Mitchell has a 23% K rate, 17.5% walk rate. So I think you're kind of getting a good shot that this is your floor with Blake Mitchell. He is going to get on base. He is going to hit balls a long ways. He'll probably strike out a little bit more than you would like, but he's still going to produce on an offensive level. So you may not think that a 248 average is very good for a 19-year-old in Columbia. His WRC plus over this year is 147. That's where we are. So it kind of gets a little bit hairy with what you value in a hitter, in a catching prospect, in a prep, no matter what you thought about him. Blake Mitchell has a high floor for what he can be, and I think the ceiling is one of the higher ones from the draft last year. So give me some Blake Mitchell love on this podcast forever.
I mean, this could be like a press the button sort of scenario, Josh, but if I told you his peak is 2022 Kyle Schwarber, which slash 218, 323, 504, that's probably
that would fuck for.
And now I don't think he's going to hit the 46 homers that Kyle Schwarber did, but if you give me a slash like that with a 129 WRC plus, and he walked, looks like 12%, 13%.
Yeah, I was going to say 10 to 12. Yeah.
But if that's coming from behind the plate,
that's crazy valuable.
Absolutely. That's a left-handed, very valuable piece, especially if the intangibles are what they think that's what they really seem to fall in love with was
let me maybe
leadership,
find a better
baseball
example, because
IQ.
like one that's an actual catcher.
Sure. I mean, Tyler Flowers is kind of one that
I
comes
was
to mind a
thinking
little bit.
like, okay, let me see here. Okay. Maybe it's a little, maybe the strikeout rate and the walk rate aren't congruent, but could he be like 2017 Mike Zunino?
Yeah.
25 homers, 64 RBIs.
Yeah.
Now you're slash 251. I don't think he's that.
But you're still probably getting better.
Yeah,
catching.
like maybe,
Yeah.
like Mike Zunino, maybe that's what you get out of him.
But still, if that's the button, I'm probably still pushing that.
Yeah.
I think the ceiling could
Mike
definitely be
Zunino
higher.
had a
But
10+ year career, so
yeah, absolutely. I mean, if that's how many first round picks of the Royals have we seen not even reach the majors, let alone a 10-year career? So if that's the button, I'm pushing it 100%.
So the guy that I want to talk about is a guy that just made his Columbia debut tonight, and he's listed as a catcher, but he played left field tonight. Hyung Chan.
Whoa, left field! I didn't see that. That's interesting.
Yeah, he was out in left field tonight. According, or no, he was DH. But I saw him listed as a left fielder at some point. I'm like, what? But he had a couple hits tonight. Had a double, an RBI. Really, absolutely tore up the rookie ball. I'm trying to find the actual numbers here. Break it down. Help me out here. 310, 400, 500. There we go. Yep. 310, 400, 500, and 100 plate appearances there at the complex. 4 homers, 16 RBIs. A guy that, hey, he was it looks like a free agent, essentially a free agent signing out of Korea. He is, how old is he? He's only 20 years old.
So they signed him at was that a 16 or 17-year-old signing?
16 or 17-year-old signing. I don't know a ton about him. I just saw that he got promoted the other day, and it was interesting. Looked up the stats, and he was pretty solid there in the complex. So another guy that, hey, we'll see what we can get out of him, but very intriguing in a solid debut there in affiliated ball.
Did Ramon Ramirez get called up too? I didn't.
I saw his name.
No, he did not. It was another guy, and I can't think of who it was at the time. But no, Ramon Ramirez is still. I wouldn't be shocked if they keep him in the complex all year and then send him to Columbia next year when they send Blake Mitchell up.
I mean, the Royals are growing catchers on trees, boys.
They're trying, man.
All we can do is try, boys, and that's what we did on this podcast. Massive thanks to you for jumping on. Massive thanks to producer Nick Springer behind the scenes for pulling the strings and doing one hell of a job. Thanks to everybody who tuned in live on YouTube and followed along with us. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify the day after, a couple days after, again, super appreciative for that. So we'll be back next week with another edition of the One World Away podcast. But until then, take care. We'll talk soon.
Appreciate y'all.